Round 1, Brands Hatch Indy Circuit, one of the shortest circuits on the calendar. Everybody keen to impress, tensions were running high, but they weren't just competing against each other, they were competing against a fickle British weather. Let's take a look.
Here's how they line up then for the opening Bennett's British Superbike race of the year. Gregorio Lavia on pole just from Leon Haslam, his teammate. Carl Harris and Dean Thomas on the Kawasaki join them on that front row. Row 2, Jonathan Ray, Michael Rutter, Ryoichi Kiyanari and Shane Shaky Byrne in his first ride back in Superbikes this year. James Hayden, Glenn Richards, Scott Smart and Ben Wilson on the Vivaldi bike on row 3. Row 4, Michael Laverty, John Kirkham, Craig Coxall and Sean Emmett on the Ippon motorcycle. Under orders then for the first Bennett's British Superbike year, and away, HM Plant Honda up in the air. That was a big mess from Carl Harris. He got it all wrong there. Carl Harris launching the bike up, but the Kawasaki in the second place. But it is an Airways Ducati out front as they drop down and dip it up to Drew Druitt for the first time. Tony Carter is with me here in the commentary box.
Leon Haslam has already stamped his wares out on this championship key. He's the first person out of the blocks. He's flying away. He's setting the mark already. Dean Thomas, big slide though.
It was Haslam who had the big slide out of Druitt. Big black line, and he's paid for it as well. The Hawk Kawasaki goes back and place number 1 is through Gregorio Lavia. My money, I have to say, was on Lavia at the beginning of this race. Tony Carter's was on Haslam. That's why Tony was so upbeat from the beginning. But with 30 laps almost still to go, we're about to come round to the end of lap 1. There is a long, long, long way to go here at the moment. Watch out for the charge behind for third place at the moment. Looked to be like number 3, Michael Rudder coming through into third place on the Stobart Honda. Michael Rudder has so much to prove, and third place already. Let's take another look at this start then. And Carl Harris,
Harris is entering a wheelie competition off that line.
Well, that was a feature of the Fireblade, of course, when they first came out 2 years ago, the snatchy clutch. But in this particular situation, we didn't expect Carl Harris to launch it skywards. The 2 Airways Ducatis are just away at the front at the moment. Michael Rudder in third place, Carl Harris in fourth place, having recovered from what, by his standards, is a pretty poor start. We're at Clearways, almost at the end of lap 2 of 30 laps around here. They're going to be turning to cheese.
Gregorio Lavia has just closed right up on Leon Haslam in the space of a lap. Now that was a good 10 bike lengths there.
I just think the guy has got such brilliant racecraft. The man to watch out for, though, my other money was on Michael Rutter. Michael Rutter back on Dunlops now, of course. The 2 HM Plant Hondas, the HM Plant Honda that he rode before was on Michelin's. I'm sure psychologically Michael is happier to be back on Dunlops. I don't think there's a lot between the 2 tyre manufacturers anymore, although Dunlop will argue vehemently about that, particularly. Well, you've got to look at the Airways Ducatis out the front. I think Dunlop last year did a brilliant job. They started the season perhaps with Michelin maybe thinking that Michelin were going to throw some really good tyres at the series, which they did. But Dunlop brilliantly responded, and at the end of the season I think Dunlop had the advantage over Michelin. So it was a superb tyre war year last year too. Looks like they've started pretty good as well this year.
Yeah, not bad at all. Leon's going to be getting the hurry up though from his pit board as he goes past.
Good news, no jump starts as well, so we've got a clean start as far as my monitor is concerned. Race director Stuart Higgs has given us a clean start. 91 leading this race, Leon Haslam. This psychologically will not do Leon a lot of good because he got a great start, settled in fairly quickly, but Gregorio Lavia, his teammate, is right upon him. And the one thing we do know about Gregorio Lavia, his racecraft is second to absolutely none out on this racetrack.
He's a complete class act.
Someone's
down already.
That looks like a Yamaha of
Tommy Hill.
Tommy Hill on the Pirellis. First outing, of course, I was about to say that a bit earlier on. The Pirellis have come into the British Superbike Championship, and that is the first time we've seen a Virgin Mobile Yamaha all year, and it's hit the deck. Tommy Hill out. Had such a great warm-up this morning as well. Looked really good in those iffy conditions that we started the day with.
He was saying he was chasing some side grip with those Pirellis though, and it looks like it's come to bite him on the bum.
Well, frustration, of course. This is his home track. He only lives down the road at Lingfield near Oxted in Surrey. Meanwhile, Darky's coming out the rear end, and that's Ollie on the left. Yes, hello, Ollie. Good morning to you as well. Ollie waving alongside her is Colin Wright.
No waves from Colin Wright though, did you notice that?
Yeah, but you watch, he'll have his teeth shining at the end of this. If he gets a 1-2 at the opening race, that will have been the 25 odd grand that they spent in going testing in South Africa earlier on in the year. That'll be money well spent. When you've got an over £1 million team out on the racetrack, why waste your time testing at Snetterton, Knock Hill, Croft? Not that those are bad racetracks, just that British weather conditions aren't conducive to some decent testing. And the Airways Ducati boys really did invest. Darryl Healy put his money up, and off they went on the South African jolly. Most people will have thought. As up the inside goes Carl Harris. Carl Harris at Druids takes Michael Rutter. Great move from Carl Harris. He's got to do something about these two. The HM Plant. Who would have thought that Carl Harris, all right, not a newcomer to Honda, but a newcomer to the HM Plant garage, he's moved up as Michael Rutter moved out. Harris moved up into that team, and he's the man that's been setting the mark here at Brands Hatch over Chianari.
Yeah, and Chianari, Gregorio Olivier though just goes through on Leon Haslam. So Greg is budging his teammate out the way.
Just to catch up on some of those guys you saw on the front row, Dean Thomas, bike number 12, is down in 7th place. Shane Shaky Byrne on the leading Rizla Suzuki is in 8th place now. So Byrne is a racer. James Hayden, looking down the list, is in 12th place. James Hayden, and I'll tell you what, there are two men in that Rizla Suzuki camp that are absolutely going to fight tooth and nail to the end of this year. I don't know two men that are more determined to try and get a result than those two in one team. Johnny Ray, we're looking at, bike 65, up behind number 2, Keogh, who's getting away from him. This kid, 18 years old, last year, he could hardly hold a glass of water in his hand at this point of the year. He was absolutely shaking with nerves. This year, he's relaxed, he's composed, and I've got to say that he has done the Red Bull Rookies program along with Honda a superb justification. He's really made that program look good.
Well, you know, the Red Bull Rookies actually brought a mind coach over. He's a guy who's after a lot of elite Red Bull athletes, and they brought him over to work with him.
We could do with one of them. They can have a look for my mind and see if they can find it. Number 1, Gregorio Lavia, leading majestically from the front. The opening round of the Bennett British Superbike Championship. Gregorio Lavia leads from Leon Haslam. Then we have Carl Harris, 1.6 seconds off of Haslam at the moment. So we've got to keep an eye on that gap. 1.6 seconds from third place man Harris. And then if we move back through, Chianari in 5th place.
Laverty coming out of clearways. Looks like he's got a fantastic drive along the start. Can he push Dean Thomas out the way just as Shaky Byrne has? No, not this time.
You've got to be impressed though how the Hawk Kawasaki is going as well as it is. That ZX-10 is about a minute old. It's only just been born. It's only just arrived really at the Hawk Kawasaki base up at Mallory Park in Leicestershire, and I'm just amazed at how quick they've got the thing on the pace. Middle of your picture, JR, former British champion. Behind him, Neil McKenzie, multiple British champion as well at Superbike level. And there is a Suzuki team. Well, they're all keeping an eye on Shane Byrne. He has manfully moved that motorcycle up to 7th place in front of Dean Thomas. And you can see how far away they've got now, as through has gone Michael Laverty on Dean Thomas. Dean Thomas is slipping back to fellow compatriot Glenn Richards, who undoubtedly is going to make a pass on Bam Bam as well. As we come up towards Druids, you can see the other Rizla Suzuki. That is the Hydrex Honda of Glenn Richards. We got a shot of James Hayden closing in on this lot as well, so Hayden must consider this track to be a home track. Also, he's a Buckinghamshire boy and a new dad.
Young Zach, born 3 months ago. And James hasn't stopped smiling, has he? Every time you see him, he's got a big fixed grin on his face, and he'll show anybody pictures on the mobile phone of his new addition.
I'd like to see a shot of Colin Wright at this moment in time as well, because I think he'll be smiling like a baby too as far as his performances are concerned out on the track. This is, well, they might have came here last year thinking, well, I mean, they modified their thinking as it happened halfway through the season, but at the beginning of the year they were here to try and make this work for 2006. But they ended up walking away with the championship courtesy of Gregorio Lavia, who was basically subbed in.
Ryuichi Chianari is right on the back of Michael Rutter now, closed right up across the timing strip there. Just 0.08 of a second separated them. Now on track, they're virtually together. You could throw a big blanket over them. So Chianari looking to redress the problem.
Yeah, indeed. Lavia comes across the line again. Do you know what? His fastest lap that he set on lap 2 is still the fastest lap of the race. Incredible. Lavia just pumped that fastest. Oh! Down goes Haslam. That is a big off.
My goodness, and that was quick as well. And the bike seemed to just let go.
That bit him. We saw a rider in the earlier race get bit in exactly the same position there at Paddock Hill Bend on the way in. That really did grab him big time. So Leon Haslam, his mum Anne is downstairs and below us in the commentary position here, and I've got to say Anne will be horrified at the sight of that. She'll have been watching it on the monitor. Ron Haslam, his dad, is here as well, Rocket Ron Haslam. Leon Haslam, as I'm looking out the commentary position, he's still down. He looks to me like he's winded. We'll get back to that in a moment, but that was a big off as he was round Paddock Hill Bend and on to Halewood Hill. There it is, yellow flags being waved there. Michael Rutter and Chianari battling out on 2 Hondas, set up probably completely different. If you remember, the Stobart Honda boys, Paul Bird decided to go a different way as far as the technical side of things was concerned, compared with HM Plant Hondas, and that was because he wanted to develop a motorcycle that possibly could compete in a different way with the full works factory teams.
You know,
Red flag, we've got a red flag. There's a red flag out, so we have a red flag. So that incident with Leon Haslam has called us a red flag. The race director, Stuart Higgs, has deemed it being necessary for a red flag so that they can attend properly to Leon Haslam, who crashed just a lap and a half ago at Paddock Hill Bend. We have covered enough race distance to make that a confirmed race distance, and so Gregorio Lavia will be the winner of the opening race. And it probably in the worst and ironic way possible, because Lavia wins courtesy of Leon Haslam, his teammate, laying in the sand at Paddock Hill Bend, something that Gregorio will be very, very concerned about indeed. Leon Haslam then entering into Paddock Hill Bend, loses the rear end after asking for the power over the high side, is spanked onto the tarmac, rolls through the pit gravel trap and to the barrier. And I can tell you, after being briefly unconscious, he's now conscious, on his way to the medical centre with a minor leg injury. The opening race of the 2006 season is, of course, the Bennett's British Superbike Championship, and race one was won by Gregorio Lavia. Carl Harris comes through into second place. Michael Rutter on the podium on the Stobart Honda for the first time. Ryoichi Kiyanari, Jonathan Ray, Shane Byrne, Michael Laverty and Dean Thomas are our top 8. Ninth place, Glenn Richards, James Hayden, Gary Mason, Ben Wilson, Sean Emmett, Scott Smart and Ollie Bridewell round out the top 15 point scorers, with John Kirkham just outside in 16th place. So Spain's Gregorio Lavia starts the 2006 season as the defending champion. He started as he means to go on. He tastes the champagne for the first time. Here we go then. Lights out. Race starts. Race 2 underway then. Down towards Paddock Hill they go for the first time. Oh, Michael Rutter, the Rainmaster as he used to be known, up the inside into second place. Carl Harris slots in behind him, but no doubt about who's got off in front. Looks like Leon Haslam to me, that's made the break up into turn 1. Well, he might have had a big bang on the head in the first race today in the Superbike, but not anymore.
Kiyanari was flying off the grid there, almost got bought by his own teammate.
Carl Harris, though, got under Michael Rutter at Druid, so Michael Rutter slipped back to third place now, and he seems a little bit tentative, and I would be down here. He's getting mugged. One either side. Rutter was the sandwich there on the Stobart Honda, a little bit too tentative down into Graham Hill. It is Leon Haslam that leads. Behind him, Carl Harris. Then it's Ryoichi Kiyanari. So we are set now fair for a brilliant dogfight in really difficult conditions. Just look how tricky it is at clearways. Underneath goes Kiyanari. Kiyanari on Carl Harris has thrown caution to the wind, and underneath Haslam as well. What is all that about?
Not so much a hurry up, just get out of my way. He's already pulled 10 bike lengths on them in the space of 100 metres. Amazing stuff from Kiyanari. Carl Harris is following his teammate through. There's
something wrong with him, I've got to say. That is just incredible. How the hell you can judge how slippery this racetrack is with a couple of warm-up laps, and to do that, just make that pace over and above all of these world-class competitors behind him. I just do not know how he works that one out, but he needs to do something. First race was a bit of a disappointment, I suppose, for him. Qualifying was an even bigger one. Kiyanari, anything less than a win must be a disappointment nowadays. But this is rubbing their noses in it.
Country mile.
Well,
in this stage, lap 2 of 30, country mile kid. He's going to be lapping up to 5th, 6th place if he can continue that place.
I've seen this before, though, Tony. I've got to say that look at that, she drives underneath. I've seen it before, and like, they throw it through the fence so fast once they find the limit of adhesion. Although obviously Kiyanari there doesn't look at all out of order. Look at this, he's already at Paddock Hill Bend, and they're hardly out of clearways. I mean, Ryoichi Kiyanari, I think Neil Tuxworth will be going mad down in pit lane, because Kiyanari really needs to be very careful, stay away from the white lines. He doesn't look like he's trying too hard. He looks absolutely smooth on that motorbike. What an amazing talent Kiyanari is.
Looks like he's got full wet on the back there, Keith, as he's going around Druids.
Well, maybe he's gambled on something like that. Then he's got a combination on the motorcycle that's given him the grip in the initial part of this race, and he's gambling on the rain. Well, it's still spitting, but it's not really rain. Oh, out of the seat came Carl Harris. Carl Harris with it wiggling. Number 1, Gregorio Lavia has moved in front of his teammate as well. So Haslam has slipped back to 4th place now. Gregorio Lavia on number 1 bike is slipping up behind Carl Harris. And there is Matthew Stone on the right-hand side, and on the left-hand side, Neil Tuxworth, the race team manager. And they looked like a couple of blokes down in the boardroom, didn't they, discussing conservatively the way that their boys were running. As up the inside goes number 1, Gregorio Lavia. Lavia then has moved ahead. Lavia it's like a masterclass. He takes his time, sorts himself out, puts a good lap on top of a good lap. But he must be wondering, well, I mean, he'll be saying in Spanish at the moment, I don't care where Chianari's gone. There's no way I want to match that pace at this point.
If Chianari does have a wet on the rear, and Lavia has slicks. Oh, and he's off. Carl Harris is off into, well, that was McLaren that he rode off there. Luckily got back on track, almost took out
Rita Suzuki.
James Hayden.
Indeed, so James Hayden having a little bit of a close attention from Carl Harris. But that's what I mean, you can make that kind of mistake so easily here in these kind of conditions. I can't believe that Carl Harris has got that much of a different setup to Chianari. I mean, you might have made the spot of the day by spotting that Chianari has got a wet on the back. I mean, if he has gone for a wet, remember back to Cadwell Park a couple of years ago when they had no choice at Michelin, either had to be wet or slick. And that might be the situation today.
Well, I'm just wondering whether Chianari...
You held your breath there for a minute, didn't you?
Well, we all did up here, Keith. But
41, that was, of course, Craig Coxall, the newcomer to the Hawk Kawasaki team. The reason why he held his breath, because he was up the inside of Tommy Hill on the number 8 Virgin Mobile bike. McConnell? I can hardly believe that. It's Billy McConnell in 3rd place on the Virgin Mobile Yamaha. He snuck himself up there. He must have done it by teleportation, because I never saw it.
Well,
unbelievable. Billy McConnell, I just looked up at the monitor. I've been concentrating on watching the race, and McConnell somehow has gone into 3rd place. That is the ride of the day so far. Did you see that, Mr. Carter?
Passed me by completely, Keith. I'll tell you what, he must have some rubber on there to be doing that. He must have the same setup or the same system going on as Chianari, because that is phenomenal for the former R6 Virgin Cup rider.
You might be quite right. I spoke to Rob McElnay a moment ago and asked how Tommy Hill was, because I was a little bit concerned if he was bruised or badly. He said he's absolutely fine. Obviously not happy as far as that's concerned. And but he didn't mention anything about Billy McConnell. Maybe they've taken a gamble. Here's your race leader then. Look closely at those tyres. See if you can see grooves in them. Here he is at the moment, 16 is McConnell from 1, Gregorio Lavia. That is incredible.
You know, Billy McConnell is your typical Australian as well. He's fairly quiet in the team. He's not one of these boys who puts himself forward in that team. And at the moment, with Tommy Hill and Kieran Clark also in the Virgin squad, you know, it's a buoyant sort of garage that Rob Max created there. It's a great place to be.
Let's have a look and see what his tyres are. If we stay with him long enough and we get up towards Druids, it's about the only place where they go slow enough for us to have a good close look at his tyres. Through Paddock Hill Bend now. Looks confident as well, doesn't he, on that bike? This is his first race, remember, on this superbike.
Looks smooth.
And they've not got the old Big Bang motors in them this year either, because they've gone to Pirellis. Remember, they've gone to Pirellis. Rob Mack spoke to me earlier on and said about being in the zone. We need to be in the Pirelli zone, he said. We need it to be just the right condition for Pirelli to work well here at Brands Hatch. Billy McConnell is right in the zone at the moment, and Rob Mack must be... I wonder if he had a staggered strategy, whether he gave Tommy Hill a different strategy to the one he's put his newcomer on.
Well, that's typical. That would be typical of Rob. Rob tends to have the philosophy that, you know, if you're not right at the front of the grid, you can take the gamble. It's only when you're at the front of the grid you should really look at what everybody else around you is doing. It didn't look like Billy McConnell's got a wet on, so maybe all the work that Stefan Baum from Pirelli, who's over here working with these guys, maybe all the work they've been putting in is starting to pay off.
Well, I have to tell you that there's not much work they can do once they get here, that's for sure, because it's a iffy kind of a day. It's not dry, it's not wet, it's cold, it's windy, then you can't legislate for that, and you probably haven't got a tyre in the truck for it. You might have something that's close for it, but when Rob Mack said about being in the zone, he obviously knew that with a little bit more rain it was going to work for them, and certainly it is at the moment. Lap 10 of 30. It's an enthralling second Superbike race as we look at Arisa Suzuki in front of the other Virgin Mobile Yamaha of Tommy Hill, and then Carl Harris, who had that little slip up when he went straight on at McLaren and then managed to get himself back in order. Look at the way I have to say, take that, Tommy Hill. Well, he's got some grip off that Pirelli. He's just driven straight under the Dunlop shod, Arisa Suzuki, and there's the Michelin shod number 9 bike behind that.
Stefan Baum from Pirelli was actually telling me this morning that he sees the Virgin boys as the potential landmark for the next development of the Pirelli World Superbike tyres, because he can adapt and adjust just for these 3 riders. So they are actually leading the way on that development, and it certainly looks like they've got a perfect tyre for these sorts of conditions.
This is a nightmare for Keogh. He's going around Michael Lavity round the outside. I wouldn't want to be doing too much of that. So Keogh, on lap 13, at this class of rider and machine, lapping the rest of the field is unbelievable. 19 seconds was his lead over Billy McConnell in second place. 2 seconds now is McConnell's lead over Lavia in third place. So both the front pair are extending their lead. Michelin-shod HM Plant Honda for Ryoichi Kiyanari, and then you've got the man behind him, Billy McConnell on the Virgin Mobile Yamaha on Pirellis. Absolutely outstanding. Next up, of course, is Lavia on Dunlops, and excuse me while I hold my breath. Whenever they tip in like that, I just expect something horrible to happen. It's amazing when they find the grip.
But right here, right now, we've got a real David and Goliath moment, because Kiyanari, of course, is part of the HM Plant Honda team. We were talking about them and the extensive winter testing program they've been on. Thousands and thousands of laps over the winter period. And on the flip side, they've got Billy McConnell, who really, they haven't had much testing, certainly not on the Pirellis, and blades in the garage. Well, that's the end of the day for Michael Rudder.
Yeah, Michael Rudder, he came in a long time ago. I saw it come up on the monitor, and he started off this race so well, but he's in pit lane. So his podium from race 1, he can't consolidate that in race 2. This man, it's all about consolidation and teamwork, and he knows it more than anybody else. He put in a few laps where he had a bit of a go at it. We're half race distance now. Lavia quite happy to sit on 16 points for that third place. Haslam still in 4th place, and the gap is what, 1.8 seconds from Lavia to Haslam. McConnell to Lavia now. Billy McConnell in 2nd place, 3 seconds over Lavia, so it's an extension of the lead. It's exactly the same between Kiyanari and McConnell, 1st and 2nd, but they are both extending their lead over 3rd place man, this man, Gregorio Lavia.
Carl Harris down in 7th place. He must have got the second.
That was nasty. He got his nose cut off by that back marker. I didn't catch who it was, but now he rides around the outside of him. Haslam gets good drive. Billy gets a place 2. Pit board, and look at that lot all over the show. Dear me, that is a lot for these guys to carve through. Gregorio really had his nose pinched when he came into clearways. Blue flag being waved frantically. That means get out of the way. Well, it doesn't mean get out of the way anymore. It means you've got a much faster rider approaching you. I think the top riders came to an agreement a while ago that these back markers should stay on their line, don't move off of the line, because at least then it's consistent where they're going to be going. In the old days, you get someone to move off his line and just in the place where you were trying to head for, and you ended up with him carving you up. Through he goes. So number 1, Gregorio Lavia, now goes 2nd. He has got underneath Billy McConnell. I think you'll find that this track is drying out. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to work that out, because the slick tyres of Gregorio Lavia are now a little bit better than whatever Billy McConnell's got on.
Well, the news is a bit good and bad for Rob Mack. We've got Kieran Clark, who's fallen at Surtees, but Ryder is okay. We've been told that. So unfortunately, rider number 3 in the Virgin team, end of his day.
So the number 74 of Kieran Clark is out, but look at this lot now. And Gregorio, dear me, and through. Oh, Billy McConnell forces his way through, and that's brought it, and that pushed the guy straight up into the face of Haslam. So Haslam, courtesy of Billy McConnell, is balked by a back marker. I'll tell you what, number 5 is Gary Mason on the other Hydrex bike as well. So the Hydrex Honda of Gary Mason has just been passed by one of the Airwaves Ducatis. I tell you what a race this is turning out to be. McConnell now down to 4th place, Coxwell in 5th, Hill in 6th place. Clearways. Oh, bit of a head shaker there for Gregorio Lavia as he goes under number 15. That's Ben Wilson on one of the Vivaldi bikes. That's a huge team this year. Vivaldi Potatoes sponsor a massive team. I haven't got time to read off how many bikes they've got in the race card this weekend. Whoa, who's that out on the berm? Someone taking a motocross line out there on the thick bit. Dear me.
Yeah, that was Wilson.
Haslam being, again, having a bit of a problem underneath the Australian. Oh, that's going to be horrible. Oh, he was lucky there. He was so lucky there. That was very, very lucky for Billy McConnell, because if he'd held that for a second longer, he'd have gone straight to that barrier where those marshals are. Billy McConnell, a very, very lucky young man, but hasn't he proved to us just what he's capable of? Superb ride from Billy McConnell. Look at this. Touch the white line.
Just
there it goes. But that's the most dangerous part, the fact it picked itself up. He just threw it down in time.
Yep.
And he was a very, very, very lucky young man indeed, because that is one where you can catch some massive injuries just there if you hit that barrier head on. Leon Haslam has an even harder task as round the outside goes. That's Shaky Byrne, I think, round the outside there. It is. Shaky Byrne goes back a lap on Leon Haslam now. Haslam has slotted back in behind the number 1 biker, Gregorio Lavia. 33 is still Michael Laverty on the Ulster bike. This is your race leader, lap 26 of 30. 16 is a faller on the Cooper Straight, we know that. Don't know why I'm reading it out, it's on my monitor, it's my job, I'm paid to do it. Number 2, Chianari though. Absolutely, he leads by 21.5 seconds from Gregorio Lavia in second place. So, Ryoichi Chianari, the young Japanese rider, 12 race wins, more than anybody else last year. He'd have won a load more if he hadn't had a massive crash at Mallory Park, where he was out for a couple of rounds. And Ryo Kyo looking superb. He won both these opening races last year here at Brands Hatch. He's only going to win one of them this year, by the look of it. Through goes Gregorio on Michael Lavity, the Ulsterman being very polite, letting him pass the Stobbart Honda. Not got the right boots on, I would hazard a guess at this particular point. 46, Bridewell goes back. It's not often you say the number 46 going backwards.
But you know, Leon Haslam, he's really going to be feeling whatever bangs and scrapes he got from race 1 at this stage of the race. So to hang on like he is doing is pretty good.
Still Coxell in 4th place, Harris in 5th place, but the fastest lap to him so far, Tommy Hill in 6th place. But your leaders and your podium men, Keogh, Lavia and Haslam. Tell you what, it'll be a hell of a result from the Airwave Ducati boys. They are going to go away with some big points here.
Championship lead for Gregorio
Well,
Lavia.
it will be the championship lead indeed. Carl Harris of HM Plant Honda finished 2nd in race 1, but Ryoichi Chianari could only manage a 4th in race 1.
And really, it's a reaffirmation of Chianari on the track, isn't it? This race, given the way his weekend's gone, he qualified down the field, he's in 6th place down the field, not where we expected him to be. He was bested by his teammate Carl Harris, and now he's out here doing the business, and he does look a class act as he goes through Clearways.
I think the classy thing for me is the fact the Michelin tyres that he put on absolutely worked brilliant. We had a dinner on Friday night with Daniel Crossbean, the technician for Michelin, who just wanted to talk us through some of the things that they're trying to do this year. And I think Michelin came to the game last year, the year before last in fact, they came to the British paddocks, and of course everybody said they'd have World Superbike tyres and have MotoGP tyres, which of course they did have, but the fact is that our races are shorter, colder and over more difficult racetracks, so the World Superbike and MotoGP tyres didn't necessarily work. Michelin had to develop over the course of